The story begins in the future, when a deadly virus had spread across the Earth. This virus was very unusual, because if someone went outside without covering their ears, they would become infected immediately. That's why everyone on Earth now has to wear a special type of headphones whenever they go outside. This keeps any kind of sound from reaching their ears. Because the moment sound reaches their ears, they become infected with the virus. On top of that, if someone hears an infected person speaking, they also become infected with the virus. When someone gets infected, they begin to show several symptoms. First, their body temperature rises dramatically. Then, little by little, they develop a fever, a runny nose, and severe headaches. As time goes on, the infected person's condition gets so bad that they lose their sanity and can't stop talking. Because of this, many people have died after becoming infected. Now, the virus has become such a massive pandemic that nearly half of the world's population is infected with it. But now, to protect the people who are still surviving on Earth, governments in every country have created a set of rules. The first rule is that going outside without headphones is a crime. Then, anyone who becomes infected is taken away by government officials and placed in quarantine. Now, every part of the city is divided into two sections. One is the normal zone, and the other is the restricted zone. The normal zone is home to ordinary people who have not been infected with the virus yet. The restricted zone is where people who have already been infected with the virus are sent to live. In other words, the entire restricted zone is a city of infected people. Meanwhile, people across the country have started protesting against the government's rule, because the government is now taking advantage of the virus. They are arresting whoever they want. But the real reason behind this is still unknown. That's why protests are happening all across the city. The organization now in charge of controlling every area is called AI. Now, we arrive at a city in Istanbul. After 6 o'clock in the evening, people were not allowed to go outside. It was also forbidden for people to talk to each other out on the streets. Now we meet a man named Aslan living in this city. Aslan had a condition called synesthesia. But in the current world, this condition could actually be considered an advantage. Because of his synesthesia, even if Aslan goes outside without wearing headphones, he still won't become infected with the virus. In other words, his body has a unique kind of immune system. However, whenever Aslan hears an infected person speak, he immediately starts having hallucinations. He even experiences intense pain in his head. At the same time, his body temperature rises sharply. In other words, the symptoms of his synesthesia are somewhat similar to the symptoms of the virus. That's why Aslan constantly monitors his condition. He listens to different tape recordings while also checking his body temperature. He keeps trying to figure out whether he has become infected with the virus again. Aslan stores all of these recordings on cassette tapes. Now, one day, Aslan was walking down the street on his way to somewhere. But just then, he looked toward a bus stop and noticed a girl sitting there reading a book. The girl's name was Suli, but Aslan was surprised to notice something. Suli wasn't wearing any kind of headphone, so he wanted to go over and talk to her about it. But the next moment, he hesitated and walked away instead. However, Suli had noticed him. Then Aslan ignored the guards standing along the street and headed straight to his mother's house. Aslan's mother's name is Amel. Aslan actually came to stay with his mother because of some symptoms he had been experiencing. He didn't want to end up in quarantine. Instead, he wanted to stay with his mother and find out whether he had actually been infected with the virus. So now he has to stay hidden inside the house for several days. Otherwise, if the BSC officers check his body temperature, they'll assume he's infected and lock him up. Because of his synesthesia, his body temperature naturally stays elevated. After Aslan arrived, his mother, Amel, asked him to go to the supermarket and buy a few things. Even though Aslan tried to explain to her that he needed to stay inside the house for several days, his mother refused to listen to him. So in the end, Aslan had no choice but to agree. Out of frustration, Aslan solved his mother's Sudoku puzzle. In fact, solving Sudoku was his mother's favorite hobby, so Aslan solved it just to annoy her. After that, Aslan headed out to the supermarket. On the way, he passed by the same bus stop where Suli had been before, but Suli wasn't there now. However, she had left a short note at the bus stop. In it, she wrote to Aslan that if he came to talk to her, she wouldn't mind. Seeing that made Aslan smile. After that, Aslan went straight to the supermarket where many other people, just like him, had come to buy their daily necessities. Every one of them was wearing headphones. While everyone was standing in line, an infected person suddenly walked in. He stood in front of everyone and started talking non-stop. Everyone panicked and began running away, because if they heard her voice, they would immediately become infected as well. So after everyone ran away, one of the guards locked the doors to keep the infected woman from getting outside. But along with the woman, Aslan and a little child ended up trapped inside. The child wasn't wearing any kind of headphone, so the child became terrified. To save the child, Aslan immediately took off his own headphones and put them on the child's ears. As a result, the infected woman walked over to Aslan. She leaned close to his ear and started talking without stopping, but Aslan tried with all his strength to ignore her words. Otherwise, he could become infected with the virus. Because of this, Aslan developed a severe headache. Even so, he kept trying to control his mind. At the same time, he tried to open the door. After that, he gathered the items he needed. A short time later, he finally managed to get out of there. Then he sat down in a nearby place and tried to cool his head with a cold pack, because his body temperature had risen significantly. Just then, Aslan heard the sound of a police siren, so he immediately ran away from there. Even though he wasn't infected, his body temperature was extremely high. After Aslan got home, his headache and high body temperature still hadn't gone down. As a result, he started having different hallucinations. He even saw his old friend named Oscar. When his mother realized what was happening, she told him to take one of his old medications. Now we see the AI headquarters, where the chief's name was Anton. For nearly 8 years, Anton had been working to develop a cure for the virus, because both his wife and his child had been infected with the virus. So no matter what, he wanted to create a cure for it. Then he received the report about the incident at the supermarket, where an infected person had been found that day. So Anton and his entire team reviewed the supermarket security footage. In the footage, he spotted Aslan, who wasn't wearing any kind of headphones. After that, through his team of agents, he learned that Aslan had gone to the hospital many times because of his severe headaches. Then they found another piece of footage showing Aslan trying to lower his body temperature. But it was obvious from the video that he wasn't infected with the virus. Everyone was shocked to see this. The infected woman had stood right next to him and talked non-stop. So how had he still not become infected with the virus? Anton wanted to research this further, because it might lead him to an idea for a cure. But before that, Anton wanted to examine Aslan himself. Meanwhile, one of AI's agents had Aslan's headphones, which had been taken from the child afterward. After scanning the serial number on Aslan's headphones, they discovered that Aslan had once been a member of AI. Everyone was stunned by this discovery. Meanwhile, Anton kept reviewing Aslan's medical records. From them, he learned that Aslan had frequently gone to the hospital with extremely high fever. Anton also uncovered another important detail about Aslan. 8 years earlier, AI had conducted a research project. This research project was actually focused on developing a cure for the virus. But one day, a terrible accident happened, and everyone on the research team was killed. A fire had broken out in the lab during the research. After that, the project was shut down. However, Anton discovered that only one member of that research team had survived, and that person was none other than Aslan. Anton then went straight to a police station. There, he used thermal imaging to examine the records and confirmed that Aslan's head temperature had been extremely high. Maybe that was the reason the virus had no effect on him. After seeing all this, Anton became completely convinced that Aslan was immune to the virus. In other words, he was an immune human. Anton then reported everything to his boss, Fayez. He explained that Aslan was immune to the virus, which was why he wasn't getting infected. He believed that if they studied Aslan, they might be able to develop a cure. But Fayez paid no attention to what he said. He insisted that no such thing existed. He believed Anton was mistaken. So, according to him, there was no point in wasting the team's valuable time researching such nonsense. Besides, the last time they tried to research this, They lost an entire research team. So Fayez told Anton to focus on his own work. Meanwhile, Aslan's mother Alma took him to a house. A man lived there who was now a mental patient. He had also been one of the researchers on the project. After the accident during the project, he developed serious mental problems, but even now he has never recovered. Then we meet a young man named Arif. Arif was actually the son of that mentally ill man. For a long time, he had been researching Project X. He was trying to uncover the truth about why his father had lost his mind. He was also doing everything he could to help his father recover. In fact, Arif was the one who asked Alma to bring her son Aslan to see it, because Aslan's friend, Oscar, was an excellent doctor. Even though everyone believed Oscar had died in that accident, Arif never believed it. He thought Oscar was still alive. Because the accident had caused a fire, Oscar's body was never properly identified. So Arif was still searching for Oscar, because Oscar was the only doctor who could cure his father. He knew everything about his father's condition. So Arif told Aslan that he wanted to find Oscar. But Aslan replied, "Have you lost your mind? Oscar died a long time ago. Please stop this." As Aslan was about to leave, Arif walked over to him and showed him a photograph and several medications. The photograph showed a part of Oscar's body with a unique tattoo on it. Arif also had several medicines that carried the exact same tattoo. It seemed possible that Oscar himself had created those medicines. After seeing this, even Aslan started to have doubts. He began wondering if Oscar might actually still be alive, so he decided to join Arif in the investigation. The next day, before meeting Arif, he wrote a letter to Suli and left it at the bus stop. Then Aslan and Arif went to meet a man named Aral, who worked for the AI organization. Aral had access that could help them get into the AI server sector, but the job had to be done in secret. So Arif and Aslan wanted to enter the server sector to gather more information about Oscar. Aral arranged their access to the facility, but in return he demanded a large amount of money, which Aslan paid him. After that, Aral gave them an access card that contained Oscar's profile information. To reach the server sector, they had to pass through several checkpoints, but Aral had people stationed at every checkpoint, and they helped Aslan get through each one. Finally, Aslan arrived at the server sector. There, Aslan easily gained access to all the files. When he checked Oscar's file, he found Oscar's death certificate. However, he also found several photos of Oscar. After looking at them, he began to feel that the body might not actually have been Oscar's. Then Aslan tried to delete the footage that recorded what had happened to him at the supermarket. Aslan had no idea that Anton and his team had already watched it, so he was trying to erase those records, because if anyone saw that footage, they would definitely become suspicious of him. But when he entered the security password, the computer rejected it, and the alarm started going off. So Aslan quickly ran away from that place. Later, while returning home, Aslan looked toward the bus stop. The letter he had left for Suli earlier that day was still there. Meanwhile, Anton arrived with his team to look for Aslan. Anton asked Aslan's mother many questions about him, but Aslan's mother, Amal, realized that her son might be in danger, so she pretended not to know anything. Then, when she got the chance, she placed a red Christmas tree outside, because it was a warning signal between her and her son. Later, when Aslan returned home, he noticed the red Christmas tree as soon as he approached the house. He immediately realized that his mother was warning him, so he turned around and started running away. But by then, Anton and his team had already noticed that he was there. They immediately started chasing him. Meanwhile, Aslan used several secret corridors inside the building to somehow escape from them. After running for a long time, Aslan finally managed to escape. As a result, Anton and his team could no longer find him. Anton then went to a restricted zone to meet someone. Here we see that the restricted zones have been left completely abandoned. Every corner of the area is filled with people infected by the virus, who have been completely isolated from the rest of society. Ignoring everyone there, Anton walked straight to meet a woman. She was actually his assistant. She had been waiting there for Anton because of an urgent task related to their mission. The two of them discussed an important matter. Meanwhile, Aslan was secretly making his way to another location, but there was an ongoing protest in that area. Suddenly, an explosion occurred. Fortunately, Aslan somehow survived. After that, he went straight to a tattoo parlor. After looking around for a while, he found the same tattoo design that had been on his friend Oscar's body. But just then, the tattoo artist returned to the shop. The tattoo artist tried to kill Aslan with a tattoo needle. Aslan quickly shouted that he was Oscar's friend. Hearing that, the artist stopped. Then Aslan showed him the medicines that Arif had shown him. After looking at them, the artist said that he had actually created that design, but he had no idea how it ended up on those medicines. However, he told Aslan one important thing about the medicine. It had come from Restricted Area 6. Meanwhile, we see Anton searching Aslan's house. There, he found the tape recordings that Aslan used to keep track of his body temperature. After listening to those recordings, Anton realized that his suspicion had been correct. There was something in Aslan's body that was preventing him from becoming infected with the virus. The next day, we see Officer Fayez, who called Anton in to give him one final warning. He told Anton that even after being ordered to stop, he was still continuing his investigation. But he didn't want Anton wasting his time on any of this. So if he heard one more complaint about Anton, he would fire him. Anton replied that he had already stopped the investigation. But even after saying that, he kept trying to gain access to Aslan's files. However, Anton's colleague told him that the files were protected by extremely high security. While searching Aslan's room, Anton found a prescription that had been written by a man named Dr. Ike. He also learned about Aslan's friend, Oscar, from the tape recordings he had found in Aslan's room. Then, Anton asked his team to find Dr. Ike. Meanwhile, we see Officer Fayez. He pulled out a very old file. Then, through a flashback, it is revealed that Fayez himself had started the fire in the project's research lab. But we will learn later why he did it. Meanwhile, one of Anton's team members informed him that they had found the person he was looking for. Today was also Anton's son's birthday. Anton had hidden his wife and son in the basement of his house because both of them were infected. If the government found out about them, they would be sent to the restricted zone. So Anton took a birthday cake and went down to the basement for his son. Meanwhile, we see Aslan. He was now planning to enter Restricted Area 6. But that area was heavily guarded because a huge number of infected people were kept there, so no one was allowed to enter the area. To get inside, a person had to pass through several checkpoints. Aslan then took the money he had saved and went to meet a man who could get him into the restricted area for a price. He paid the man and received a restricted area pass. To make it work, the man gave Aslan a new haircut and changed his appearance. Then he used Aslan's photo to make him a fake ID. Just as the man was getting ready to take Aslan to the area, a siren suddenly started blaring because the government had apparently discovered this location, so they had come to search the area. It turned out that the government team was actually Anton and his entire unit. The man then took Aslan out through a back route. He brought him to the entrance of Restricted Area 6, but to get inside, Aslan had to pass through 3 subway sectors. Fortunately, the fake ID pass the man had made for him worked successfully, so he was able to get through the checkpoints using that pass. However, once inside, he noticed that posters about him had been put up everywhere. The posters said that the police were looking for him and asked people to report him. In other words, Anton had done this to find Aslan. Seeing this, Aslan became very nervous, because if anyone recognized him, they could turn him in. Even though his haircut had changed, his face still looked very similar to the one on the poster. One of the guards was just about to recognize him, but at that very moment, Suli arrived and quickly pulled him off to the side. Aslan was overjoyed, and he began to develop strong feelings for Suli. Then Suli and Aslan entered Restricted Area 6, where the conditions were terrible. There were many people infected with the virus all around them. The entire area was heavily guarded by security personnel to keep everything under control. Suli then took Aslan into an apartment building. She led him up to the rooftop. There, Suli told Aslan that she was a member of the resistance group inside the restricted area. She was actually working for AI while stationed there. Her team was responsible for taking care of the people infected with the virus. Whenever the government sent treatments for the infected, her team distributed them. At the same time, they were also working on several vaccines that could help cure the infected. Suli then told Aslan that if he helped them with their research, they might finally be able to develop an effective vaccine. Because Suli already knew that Aslan's body had a unique immune system. Because of it, he never becomes infected with the virus. But years ago, while working on a vaccine, a fire broke out and his teammates lost their lives. That's why he refused to work on a vaccine ever again. But Suli told him that if Aslan helped her, she would help him in return. She would assist him with everything he had come to Restricted Area 6 to accomplish. Aslan finally agreed to Suli's proposal. Then the two of them started investigating the medicine. Eventually, they discovered that the medicine was being sold at a bar. A local mafia boss was the one selling it, so the two of them went there together. When they arrived, they saw that the mafia boss was recording a song by himself. But the moment he noticed Aslan, he pointed a gun at him and was about to shoot him, because he hated being interrupted while recording his music. However, Aslan looked around and realized that the mafia boss was obsessed with a special type of cassette tape. And at the present time, those cassette tapes were extremely rare and very difficult to find. So Aslan immediately told him that he knew someone who had a huge collection of those rare cassette tapes. If he wanted, he could get as many of them as he needed. Hearing this, the mafia boss introduced himself. His name was Don. He welcomed Aslan and Suli to his club and invited them to have a seat. Then Don asked Aslan for the address of the person who had the rare cassette tapes. After Aslan gave him the address, Don started treating him very warmly. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Aslan asked Don about the medicine, but just then, a young woman arrived. She handed Don 2 packs of the medicine. It was the same medicine Aslan had been looking into. The woman was actually the one who supplied the medicine to Don. As soon as Aslan and Suli noticed this, they immediately started following her. But within a short time, the woman disappeared from their sight. Meanwhile, while searching for Aslan, Anton learned that he was now inside Restricted Area 6. At the same time, Officer Fayez secretly sent one of his assistants to Anton's house so the house could be searched thoroughly. After searching Anton's house, the secretary found some of Aslan's documents and the tape recordings on Anton's desk. He stole them to hand over to Officer Fayez, but other than that, he didn't find anything important about Anton. As he was about to leave, he suddenly heard some noises coming from the basement. So, with his gun ready, he quickly headed downstairs. There, he discovered Anton's infected wife and son. But at that very moment, Anton arrived. He pointed a gun at the secretary's head from behind. One of Anton's team members had warned him that his house might be searched that day, so he had rushed home. The secretary then advised Anton to send his wife and son to the restricted area. He said that if the treatment worked, they might recover. But Anton knew better than anyone that no effective treatment for the virus had been developed yet, and there was no way he wanted his family to live in the restricted area. So, to keep his wife and son's existence a secret, Anton aimed his gun at the secretary. But just then, the secretary begged him to let him go. He promised that he wouldn't tell anyone about Anton's wife or his son. At that moment, Anton remembered his past. It was when the virus had started spreading everywhere. Back then, the government was sending people to the restricted zones in massive numbers. Even people showing the slightest symptoms were sent there, even if they weren't actually infected. As a result, even more people became infected. Many families were torn apart. Even small children were not spared. That's why the protests against the government had begun back then. Around that same time, Anton's son became infected with the virus. Anton's mother somehow managed to hide his son. Because of him, she also became infected. But Anton managed to protect himself, so he hid his wife and his child. Back in the present, Anton was about to shoot the secretary, but he wasn't the kind of person who would kill someone for no reason. So he chose to trust the secretary and let him go. The secretary then went to Officer Fayez. He handed over the documents and tape recordings he had found about Aslan, but he truly kept his promise and said nothing about Anton's wife and son. He also told Fayez that Aslan should be investigated, because he had also started to suspect that Anton might have been right. Maybe it really was possible to create a vaccine through Aslan. Although Officer Fayez didn't say much, later that night he called the secretary to meet him. He told him that he had found a clue in Aslan's tape recording. Then he played them for the secretary, but it turned out that the recordings contained the voices of infected people. Fayez then held the secretary's ears open and forced him to listen to those voices. Within moments, the secretary became infected with the virus. After that, Officer Fayez took some of the secretary's personal belongings and quickly left the scene. Meanwhile, we see Aslan and Suli. The two of them went to a market to buy some essential supply. There, they ran into the same young woman from the club. Her name was Lucy. Aslan asked Lucy where she had gotten the medicine. Lucy then handed him a phone and told him to call any phone number. If the person on the other end answered the call, she would tell him who had made the medicine. Following her instructions, Aslan called a random number. Fortunately, someone answered on the other end. Even then, Lucy didn't give him the doctor's address. Instead, she told him to go to a secret location. She said they would play a game called hide and seek there. So Aslan and Suli quickly headed to that place. There, on top of a table, he found a piece of paper. Then we see a flashback from Aslan's past. It reveals that his friend Oscar had performed an experiment on him. That was the reason Aslan had become immune to the virus. Oscar was actually a doctor. However, the experiment left Aslan with side effects. Now, whenever he hears the voices of infected people, he suffers intense pain in his head. His body temperature also rises sharply, but after the experiment, Aslan became much more intelligent. Then Aslan and Suli found several papers on the table. Each of them contained clues. If Aslan could solve all of those clues, he would be able to find the doctor. As they kept solving the clues, they arrived at an abandoned harbor. Just then, Lucy called and told them to wait behind a ship. After they got there, a man approached them. He searched both of them and checked whether they were carrying any hidden devices. After that, he directed them to a road on the opposite side. Then another man arrived and led Aslan to a different location. The entire place was filled with infected people. Aslan realized that he had to make it through this area. But first, he had to find a way out as quickly as possible, because the farther he moved forward, the more infected people there were. Once their voices reached his ears, his severe headaches would begin. Just then, a man came over and took away Aslan's headphones. As Aslan walked forward, the infected people surrounded him. The sound of their voices triggered an intense headache. Within moments, Aslan collapsed to the ground. Then someone gently stroked Aslan's head. When he looked up, he saw that the doctor was standing right behind him. In other words, Aslan had completed every task successfully. Then Aslan realized that the doctor was none other than his friend Oscar. So Oscar was actually alive all this time. But Aslan still had no idea why he had been hiding for so long. Then we see a flashback. Back when Oscar was working on the project, he was the team leader. He was deeply interested in researching the virus. At that time, Officer Fayez held a much lower position. Even back then, he wanted the virus research to be shut down. After the virus spread across the world, their organization gained control over the entire country. Fayez enjoyed having that power. From that moment on, he wanted to become the leader and control everything himself. That was why he had always been against developing a cure for the virus. One day, Officer Fayez approached Oscar with a proposal. He wanted Oscar to work on a different research project, but Oscar had no intention of giving up his research on the virus, so he immediately rejected the proposal. That made Officer Fayez extremely angry. Because of that, he worked even harder. Within a short time, he received a major promotion. Then he used his authority and various excuses to quickly shut down the virus research. He even stopped all the work being done by the doctors in that division. As a result, he had many conflicts with Oscar. To get revenge, Officer Fayez set fire to the research lab. However, Oscar somehow survived. He deliberately left his ID card next to his assistant's body so everyone would believe the body was his and assume he had died. After that, Oscar escaped to Restricted Area 6. He went into hiding and started living there under a false identity. He cut off all contact with everyone. At the same time, he continued his research on the virus. Meanwhile, we see Officer Fayez. He had discovered the truth about Anton's wife and son, so he had both of them taken into custody. Then Fayez blackmailed Anton, telling him that no matter what, he had to find Aslan and bring him in. Only then would he release his wife and son. Fayez wanted to get rid of Aslan because he had learned that Aslan was truly immune, and if a vaccine were actually developed, everything would change. So Anton agreed to Fayez's demand. Fayez then assigned a man named Hansman to go with Anton and keep an eye on him. Anton and his team then headed straight to Aslan's house. Aslan's mother became terrified. She had a letter from Aslan hidden inside a container, and she tried to hide it. Anton noticed this, so he deliberately sent his team outside. Then he told Aslan's mother that he didn't want to harm Aslan. Instead, he was looking for him for a good reason. He asked her to tell him privately how he could contact Aslan, because if Aslan was captured by the AI team, the situation would become much worse. Aslan's mother believed him. After the team had moved farther away, she gave Anton Aslan's location. Then Anton and his team headed straight to Restricted Area 6. But when the opportunity came, Anton quietly slipped away from the rest of his team. At the location that Aslan's mother had given him, Anton left a clue for Aslan. When Aslan arrived, he noticed a red Christmas tree hanging there. It was the same signal his mother always used to warn him, so he realized that something was wrong. He immediately took Sully to a safe place, but he couldn't understand who, besides his mother, knew about that warning signal. Just then, Oscar arrived to meet Aslan and Sully. Oscar took them both to his laboratory. Aslan told him that whenever he heard the voices of infected people, he suffered intense pain and hallucination. No matter what, he wanted to get rid of this condition. His immunity had become more like a curse. He just wanted to live a normal life like everyone else. So Oscar had him lie down inside a device for an MRI scan. They began scanning Aslan's brain. Oscar also saved all of the data from his brain so he could use it later to help develop a cure for the virus. However, Sully realized that Aslan wanted to return to a normal life, but he had promised her that he would help develop the vaccine. But instead of doing that, he now wanted to become normal again. Because of that, the research might not be able to continue in the future. So Sully called Aslan selfish. She said he was thinking only about himself instead of everyone else. Just then, one of the researchers took them to another location where there were countless infected people, but they were all surprised to see them. Even though they were infected, they were completely silent. The reason for this was a man named Halik. Halik was actually the person with the most advanced stage of the virus, but even after becoming infected, he never spoke. Instead, he led the infected people, and they all followed him. The next day, Sully tried to convince Aslan not to become normal again just yet, because Sully truly wanted all the infected people to recover. She didn't want anyone else to become part of another experiment. Then Aslan told Sully that the infected man named Halik, whom they had seen the day before, was the first person to infect Murad. That was when his friend Oscar had performed the experiment on him. During the experiment, he had accidentally infected his own wife. In other words, she was Aslan's wife. Because of the experiment, she became so severely infected that she kept talking until the pressure in her brain caused her to die. That was why Aslan had never been able to forgive himself, so he never wanted to lose another person he cared about. After hearing all this, Sully finally understood what Aslan had been through. She comforted him and said that humanity comes before everything else. If a vaccine could be created through him, countless lives could be saved. Later, when Aslan walked outside, he noticed posters of his mother all over Restricted Area 6. In other words, the government was now searching for his mother, and she was somewhere inside this area. Aslan became desperate to save her. Meanwhile, Anton found the container where Aslan's mother had tried to hide some documents. After reading them, Anton learned about Arif. He immediately went to meet him. Anton asked Arif to deliver a message to Aslan, but in return, Arif wanted something. He asked for the details of the virus control agency team from the old station, because some members of that team had abused his girlfriend, so he wanted to take revenge. Anton then gave him the list. After that, Arif delivered Anton's letter to Aslan. In the letter, Anton asked Aslan to meet him at a certain place. After reading it, Aslan realized that Anton had been the one who left the red Christmas tree for him. So Aslan went to meet Anton. Anton told Aslan that he knew he was worried about his mother, but he assured him that she was safe. However, he also warned that the AI department couldn't be trusted. They were capable of doing anything they wanted, but Aslan had a different plan. So he told Anton that he didn't need his help. Then Aslan went straight to Oscar's laboratory. He collected some chemicals and medicine. After that, he went directly to the AI headquarters, where he surrendered himself. But even that was part of his plan to save his mother. Aslan was then taken into an interrogation room. There, he was asked a series of questions. But before answering, Aslan asked for a glass of water. After they gave him water, he dipped a piece of tissue into the glass. Since Aslan had once worked for this organization, he knew how the ventilation system worked. So he quickly covered his nose and turned on the ventilation system. As a result, the officers inside the room immediately lost consciousness. Aslan then quickly found his mother. The AI officers had been keeping her locked up there. As Aslan was escaping with his mother, Handsman arrived and was about to shoot him. But at that moment, Anton stepped in and saved Aslan. By doing that, Anton completely exposed himself. Everyone realized that he had helped Aslan escape. Officer Fayez became furious with Anton. He decided to leave Anton with his wife and son without any headphones, so that he too would become infected with the virus. But just then, Aslan called Fayez and told him that he had learned about one of their secret plans. He also claimed that he had a way to destroy their entire organization. So if Fayez wanted to know more, he had to send Anton to meet him. Otherwise, Aslan would expose all of their secrets to the public. With no other choice, Fayez was forced to let Anton go, but before Anton left, Officer Fayez told him to kill Aslan. If he failed to do it, his wife and son would not survive. Then he sent Anton to meet Aslan. However, Fayez had another plan. He ordered another team to keep an eye on both Aslan and Anton. He also instructed them that if they noticed anything suspicious, they were to kill both Aslan and Anton. Aslan had asked Anton to meet him at the abandoned harbor. After Anton arrived, he said that he had a feeling someone was following them. They needed to be careful. But Aslan replied that everything had already been planned. He told Anton to do exactly what Fayez had ordered him to do, because they were being watched. Then Aslan asked Anton to press a button nearby. As soon as Anton pressed it, their ship began to move. By the time Handsman and his men arrived there, they could no longer find Aslan or Anton. Aslan had also hired several people to help him. They captured every AI team member who was there and took control of the entire operation. After that, Aslan called Officer Fayez. He told him that Fayez was planning to kill the protesters demonstrating across the city. Aslan said he had learned about the entire plan, and he had proof. So if Fayez agreed to meet the protesters' demands, Aslan would not take any action against him. But if he refused, Aslan would expose all of his crimes to the public. Fayez then pretended to agree, but in reality, he had another plan. He ordered his men to kill Anton's wife and son. However, because they were infected, everyone was afraid to go near them. So no one realized that Aslan had already rescued them from the place where they were being held. In other words, they were no longer Fayez's hostages. They were now safe with Anton. At that point, Fayez had no other choice. He went to the country's president and requested that the government accept the protesters' demand. He also gave several reasons to support his request. He said that if the government accepted the protesters' demands, the situation across the country would become much more peaceful, and it would make it much easier to bring everyone under their control. After that, they could carry out their new plan whenever they wanted. For now, their top priority was calming down the unrest across the country, because the election was coming up. Later that night, the government announced that they had accepted all of the protesters' demands. They said everyone was now free to protest together. The government would no longer stand in their way, so everyone began celebrating. But many of them could tell that this was actually part of the government's plan. They believed it might be a trap. Aslan felt that the government was planning to gather all the protesters in one place and then kill them. But Suli trusted the government. The next day, they planned to hold a massive protest together. If the government tried to stop them, they would fight back instead. With that plan, they all headed out to protest. The next day, the protesters took to the street, but there were no government officers anywhere nearby. Because of that, they were able to complete their protest peacefully. Then Aslan called Officer Fayez. He thanked him for keeping his word, but Fayez then told Aslan that he wanted all the classified information Aslan had obtained to be returned, just as they had agreed. Aslan then gave him a time and location and told him to bring the information there. Meanwhile, the protesters put their plan to attack the government on hold, but one of their leaders still couldn't trust the government. Just then, he received a phone call. The caller told him to call off their mission, but Stan refused to do it. He told his team that the mission was still active, so they needed to stay ready. Meanwhile, Fayez was now planning to make himself the president. That day, all the top government officials were scheduled to attend a major meeting. Before the meeting began, Fayez ordered his team to plant a bomb inside the building. After giving the order, he quietly left the building. A short time later, a massive explosion rocked the building. The president and many of the country's highest-ranking officials were all killed in the blast. Fayez then immediately held a press conference. He announced that the building had been hit by a terrorist attack. He also claimed that he would quickly find those responsible. Now that the president and many high-ranking officials were dead, all the power fell into Fayez's hand. Fayez then secretly began expanding his team. He absorbed every government agency into the AI organization. As a result, his AI force became much larger. Later that night, Fayez sent a massive force into restricted Area 6, where all the protesters were staying. He ordered his team to arrest everyone without exception. Meanwhile, Aslan and his team learned about the raid. They quickly warned all of their members, and they also went into hiding. But then, a noise came from Suli's side. As a result, one of Fayez's men spotted them. Just then, Arif tried to distract them and draw their attention away. But Fayez's men shot Arif. Aslan quickly grabbed a gun and began chasing after Fayez's men. After they fled, Aslan and a few of his companions rushed Arif to the hospital. But the doctor said that Arif's condition was very critical. He probably wouldn't survive. Hearing that, Aslan became terrified. He immediately called Anton for help. Anton quickly arrived there and transferred Arif to a specialized hospital that had once been used by the AI organization. The facilities there were much better. Although the bullet was successfully removed, Arif's condition continued to worsen. Arif realized that he wasn't going to survive, so he called Aslan over. He told Aslan that he was very worried about his father. After he was gone, he wanted Aslan to take care of his father's treatment. He also said that Aslan was now humanity's last hope. He was the only immune person who could make a vaccine possible, so Aslan needed to protect himself at all costs. After hearing Arif's final words, Aslan made up his mind. No matter what, he would find a way to create the vaccine. Even if the experiments on him ended up killing him, he didn't care. The next morning, Arif passed away. Everyone in restricted Area 6 attended his funeral. Meanwhile, the entire city had fallen into complete chaos. Meanwhile, Aslan went to meet Halik, the man who had been the very first person to become infected with the virus. He brought Halik with him from that place. Aslan then asked Anton to prepare everything for the experiment. Meanwhile, all of Fayez's agents were searching for Aslan, but before they could catch him, Aslan managed to escape with Halik and his companion. At the same time, Aslan asked one of his teammates to notify his doctor friend Oscar, because Oscar was the only one who could perform the experiment. That man then arranged a plane for Aslan's team. Meanwhile, Fayez himself had joined the search for Aslan, because he was determined to prevent the vaccine from ever being created. But one of Aslan's companions learned about Fayez's movements, so he quickly secured an airplane for Aslan. Meanwhile, Anton began preparing everything for the experiment. He set it up at a location far away from the city, so that no AI team would discover their hideout. Meanwhile, Aslan and Suli arrived at the airplane. They somehow managed to take off in the plane. Following Aslan's instructions, his teammates had installed a broadcasting device on the aircraft. Aslan then turned it on, and the message was broadcast live on every radio across the city. Aslan addressed everyone saying, "You don't have to be afraid anymore. A vaccine for the virus will be ready very soon." He also told everyone about Halik, the infected man who had been the very first person to catch the virus. By using Halik's body and his own, the vaccine could be created within just a few hours. That meant every infected person could finally recover, and Officer Fayez would no longer be able to control them. Aslan urged everyone to stand up against Officer Fayez. He also revealed all the evidence he had collected against Fayez. He exposed how Fayez had set fire to the research lab. He also revealed that Fayez was the one who had bombed the president's meeting, all to stop the vaccine from being developed so he could continue ruling the city. After learning the truth, not only the people of Restricted Area 6, but people across the entire city rose up against Fayez and his forces. As for Aslan and Suli, they set off toward a new life, dreaming of a new world free from the virus. And with that thrilling ending, the story comes to an end.